Yo guys, what's going on? It's Steinyamite here, back today with another video. Today we are doing an updated bunny build guide. We got 3 new builds here updated for you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. As many people know, there was a recent update to the game on, I believe, October 10th, and that added, new characters, bosses, and new modules. A lot of these new modules have allowed us to do a lot of new builds for the game, and I think it's going to be really fun. So in this video, we're going to go over our mobbing build for dungeons, invasions, all of that, a 400% dungeon build very specifically, and then just a good bossing build. All 3 have had, some changes, some more than others. The bossing one isn't changed too much from our previous bunny video, but still going to be something fun to go over. So yeah, let's get right on into it. Okay, so we are starting off here in the inventory. Got a lot to go over today for these 3 builds, but gonna try and keep it informative. We're gonna have some fun, right? So let's start with the reactors and components, and then we'll move right along into all of the modules for all of the builds. So for our reactor, we want a electric and singular power boost reactor here. Weapons do not matter, especially because here on October 30th, I know, dating ourselves, we're going to have a change that's going to allow us to add other weapon mounting to every reactor. So what you have as a weapon on here right now doesn't really matter. I would say if you're going out to try and farm for a good electric singular, you're just looking for that, and then good bonuses at the bottom. Currently on a reactor, I am using one with skill cooldown and singular skill power boost. That is just because it has the thunder cage mounting. I have another reactor here I'm going to be switching to once they allow us to change weapons. That is going to be one here with skill effect range and skill duration. As far as the bonuses go, the 2 you're really looking for in purple or higher, you really want to find one that has duration cooldown. If it has both, that's going to be your best bet, especially with these new builds. The most important things are going to be duration and cooldown. But if you even get just one of those, as you see on both of these reactors, one has cooldown, one has duration, that's all you really need. You can get away with it pretty well with just one. And then you do, obviously have some other things you can play around with as range, singular power boost, electric power boost. There's a couple like that. Honestly, if you really want one for bonus attack versus Colossus, that will work too. So you have a little bit of flexibility here with the reactor. As for our components, we are using a full supernova set here. The supernova set is one that is really, I think, exclusive for Bunny here at this point, but still really good, so we're going to talk about it. When you apply the 2 set, so if you run just 2 of these components, you get an electric skill power modifier of 8.6. Always nice because, just a skill power boost is never a bad thing. On the 4 set, however, it gets really fun. So what we're worried about more is the bottom half of that, right? The fusion skill power modifier is whatever, but the electric skill attack upon an enemy activates Executioner's Thunderbolt at the target's location. Executioner, as many of you know, is the first boss in the hard mode lineup. He is the boss that does the lightning thunder strike during his immunity phase. Bunny, running the supernova set in full, has that ability now. So what it does is it takes a electric damage attack that strikes a thunderbolt on top of an enemy, equivalent to 100% of your skill power modifier at a 50% chance. You will see it happen almost constantly, right? Just because there's a 2-second cooldown, you're going to see it drop a lot, and it's never bad to just have a huge bonus in terms of skill power. The supernova set is also really good just because it has good base stats and then bonus ones as well. So as you can see here, shield, defense, right? Really, really nice because then Bunny can have high defense and you can focus more on building into her HP depending on these builds. And I'm going to show you some options there depending on how much or how little HP you feel like you need. There's really easy switches you can make with just one mod to almost double her health, right? So the last thing right here I want to showcase before we go into the modules, I am rocking on, I think this is the 400% build for the dungeons. It's a 14,000 defense and 5,200 max HP. Now, when we get to our just normal dungeon build and our everyday use build for Bunny, there's a mod that I switch back and forth on, and we'll talk about that a little more. But when I use the health mod, it brings it up just over at 9,000 max HP. And again, that is really more of a end user decision. If you feel like you'd rather have a little bit extra damage, there's a mod you can run. And if you'd rather have a lot more health, there's another mod you can run. They unfortunately do not use the same crystal catalyst, but you know, that's a decision you can make on which one you'd rather use when you're doing the build. So yeah, we are going to now get right on into the modules. Okay, so here we have our 3 builds that we're going to be going over today. We have a 400% build, a bossing build, and then our updated, what I call 3.0 dungeons build, right? So we'll start with the 400% one here. I'm gonna let people take their screenshot as I kind of explain this one. The 400% build is going to be, you can really use this anywhere, to be honest. I've tested it outside of the 400% dungeons. It works great, don't get me wrong. But I find specifically, this is the build you're gonna wanna use in 400s over our 3.0 dungeon build, and we'll explain why, right? So here we go. The Descendant mod we're using for this build is Electric Condense, right? Which is, I know, a little different for many because High Voltage has been the pretty much go-to mod for Bunny, sometimes Bionic Fuel, but you see a lot of High Voltage builds. The Dungeons build does feature that, and again, we'll get into why that can be useful outside of the 400%. But Electric Condense charges Bunny's maximum power into a form that causes damage. So this uses the 4 attack, and it works by just running around. It builds up a charge that just automatically goes off after a set amount of distance, okay? This is important because in the 400% dungeons, the main focus is not just damage, but how many adds you can hit at the same time. With High Voltage, you are limited to how many adds you can hit because it does a concentrated lightning strike. And while that's really nice because it has extra range and damage, it limits how many adds you can do damage to. If you take that off, you get Bunny's standard lightning emission ring, right? The ring can hit as many enemies as are inside of it. You can probably already see the use for that in 400% dungeons, right? We will have footage here in the background showing the 400s, but as you all probably know if you've done even one of them, there is a lot of adds in the 400% dungeon, right? It really packs on the mobs. So it's really useful to be able to hit as many as you can. And that's what this whole build is going to be focusing around, right? Is hitting as many adds as possible. So we're going to boost the range on that. We're going to try and have as much like duration and cooldowns as we can. And then obviously we're trying to boost the attack so that we can one-shot everything with lightning emission, other than maybe some yellow bars. But even then, they go down pretty quick with this build. So next here, we're going to just briefly talk about our grapple. You can use any grapple here. I know a lot of people obviously like the long distance maneuvering. I prefer midair maneuvering, especially on Bunny. And that is because if you put the midair maneuvering above Bunny and then do almost a corkscrew motion around the end, it is the fastest way to move as Bunny, even faster than her speed of light sprint. So this allows us to proc the lightning emission even more often, right? That's really, really nice because as it says here, lightning emission move distance emits every 7 meters moved. The faster you move, the more the lightning goes off, right? So midair maneuvering, I was going to say, is going to be your best bet if you really want to maximize this build, but still feel free to use whichever one you're most comfortable with. Now, on our 400% build, we are going to very particularly use nimble fingers. I have tried switching this mod in and out. I find that because Electric Condense and just the build normally here, having lightning emission, without High Voltage, this has a longer cooldown. Therefore, you really want to have nimble fingers because otherwise, without, I would say, the perfect reactor, right? Like a double gold with duration and cooldown, you're not going to meet the criteria for a constant loop, right? You're going to have downtime, and that's not what we want to see in a dungeon, especially with that many mobs. So nimble fingers is going to come in massive handy because we get a 25.6% skill cooldown, and that allows us to just have an infinite uptime. Awesome. Next here is one of my favorite mods for Bunny, really for most builds, except for bossing ones, but any kind of mobbing build, this mod has become one of my essential mods. This is Maximize Conservation. Skill cost minus 35.4. Skill power modifier minus 20. The skill power modifier, I know sounds bad because it's a 20% damage reduction. That sounds bad. I promise you in testing and as you'll see in gameplay footage, it really doesn't matter. As long as you can one-shot everything, that's what matters, right? So the number in the end doesn't matter as long as you see results. But the skill cost minus 35 is really, really useful, specifically because of speed of light. Speed of light, we want to have as much uptime as humanly possible. Therefore, this lets us run longer. Awesome. Next here we have a pretty standard mod for Bunny. That is going to be max HP or increased HP. This brings our match HP up by 218.5%. And that is really awesome, right? Okay, so next we have a newer mod here called Power Increase, or at least new to many builds. This is just a skill power boost of plus 65%. That is nice because it's just a general skill power, so it doesn't need to be specifically for lightning or any of that. It just boosts our skill power, therefore our damage. Next, we have another new mod to the ring. This is going to be Electric Amplification. This does electric skill power plus 65.4, skill critical hit minus 140. So, as many of you probably know, whether you've watched my previous Bunny build guide or anyone else's, previously before the October 10th update and before these mods were added into the game, the goal of almost all Bunny builds was to have the highest crit possible, right? We have since tested, I myself, like many others, we've done a lot of testing, seeing that now we can just have a higher skill power damage and not have to rely on crits. So we start using mods like this that throw crit out the window for really high base damage. So this is going to be a great mod for that. Next we have Skill Expansion. This is just skill effect range plus 92.3. This is really good, especially when it comes to lightning emission, just because that ring gets even larger. Again, the goal being to hit as many adds as possible. All at the same time, we're trying to one-shot everything. So the more range we have, the more adds we can kill, the more this build can keep cycling, right? And as for cycling, here is the next mod, MP Collector. This is a personal favorite of mine. With MP Collector, when defeating an enemy, instantly recovers 12.2% of max HP at a 17% chance. So there is no cooldown on this, right? The nice part about this is because there's so many adds, you're almost guaranteed to get this to proc all the time, right? In 400, I would say if you really want to switch this mod out for something like multi-talented for more damage, this is okay. 400s have so many adds, therefore so many MP bricks on the ground that you can get away with not running this. But if you want to have the easiest maximum uptime and therefore like almost permanent speed of light running, I would definitely say continue to use this mod. Next here we have a mod called Focus on Singular. Focus on Singular is a great mod here. That is going to be Singular Skill Power Modifier plus 68.2, Skill Cooldown minus 6.1. This is an awesome mod again because we are not trying to boost crit anymore. We're just trying to boost our base power modifiers, right? So Bunny's third attack here, Lightning Emission, is a singular. Really, really good because we're just boosting that even higher. Again, this is the whole, we want to keep one-shotting everything. And nicely enough, we just get an extra little bit of skill cooldown. That is nice because it ties it with Nimble Fingers, ensuring we have a permanent uptime of the Lightning Emission ability. Next here we have Maximize Range. I'm glad to see this mod back. In my Dungeon 2.0 build guide video, we had, I believe, removed this mod. I found that even though it was nice to have this skill effect range of plus 94.4%, the skill power modifier minus 20 was really hurting us, especially when we could switch it in for other mods that were boosting the skill power. But now, because we are able to one-shot with this build, even in the 400% dungeons, for pretty much any standard ad that's not like a yellow bar, we can get away now with having even more range, right? So we tie this in with skill expansion, and that leaves us with a very large lightning ring for lightning emission. Last here we have Singular Amplification. This is another new mod added along with Electric Amp for the build. So it does Singular Skill Power Modifier plus 61, and skill critical hit rate minus 140. Again, we're really destroying the crit rate between these two mods, but again, because they now have mods that just boost our base power, we're willing to take that trade. We no longer need to rely on things critting as often as possible for the highest amount. We can just boost the base damage so high that we can one-shot everything, and none of that matters. So yeah, this is a really fun build, and then we're gonna get right along into the bossing build. Okay, so moving along here into our bossing build, right? The bossing build is mostly unchanged. I believe we've switched out 2 mods from our previous build guide because with bossing, we're still relying on the highest amount of crits because it's a boss and there's only so much we can really do to change that now. So I'll be going over this one a little bit quicker, but there's your time to screenshot and let's get right on into it. So we're going to start here with the Transcendent mod, High Voltage. Reduces the number of enemies that the throw bomb and lightning emission can strike, as we talked about in the 400, but it increases the range and damage. Since it's a boss, we're not worried about how many adds we can hit, we're worried about how much we can do to a single target. So High Voltage is still going to be our best bet. Mid-air maneuvering for the exact same reason as the previous section. If you put it up in the air for a grapple and then do a corkscrew motion, you are going to get the maximum amount of damage because it is based on movement distance, right? As you see here with Bunny's main ability, Lightning Emission, the move distance is emits every 7 meters moved. The grapple is the fastest way to move in the game, even faster than the speed of light ability. So having the ability to stay in the air as long as possible and just have all of that is going to come in massive handy. Now, onto a mod basically built for bossing with Bunny, right? This is going to be Dangerous Ambush. When landing a skill attack while the enemy is not targeting you, skill power plus 24.9, and on skill attack against immobilized enemies, skill power plus 49.8. So what this basically means in layman's terms is during a boss, if it's not a solo fight where let's say you just are in a fight with 4 people like Obstructor maybe, right? If the boss is looking at anyone besides you, you immediately get basically a 25% skill power boost. And when immobilized, meaning during the moment that the boss will land on its knees or the equivalent of that, you instantly just get a skill power boost of 50% as long as the boss is down. Next here we have emergency measures. These are going to be, again, all the crit mods because it's still for the bossing build and we find that crit just ends up doing more. So emergency measures is skill critical hit rate plus 64.6 and crit damage 27.7. You want to use this in tandem with Frontlines, which as you can tell just basically is the exact same mod but in reverse. This is just skill crit hit damage plus 64, crit rate 27, right? So the numbers are exactly the same, it just flips damage and crit rate. So those are 2 really good mods to use in tandem together. Moving along here we have increased HP, max HP again plus 218. This is really good because during a boss fight, besides just wanting to do the best damage possible, the goal is going to be to stay alive, right? Can't do damage if you're down, right? You don't want to have the DBNO, which is down but not out. No one wants that. So increased HP, super good mod to have, especially for Bunny. Next, we have Skill Insight. Skill crit rate is 115%. Again, because we're trying to go for the maximum amount of crit rate and crit damage, as you see here on the left, we have 207.7 for both crit rate and crit damage, meaning almost every lightning strike should end up being a crit, and then you're going to do a lot of damage on all of those crits. So for that, we also have Electric Specialist. That is just electric skill power plus 81.2. This just boosts all electric skills, whether it's your 1, 3, or 4 ability, so that's really, really nice. Here we have HP Amplification, which is going to be run in tandem with increased HP. This is your max HP, gets a bonus to 27.2% on top of the 218.5 we already added, with the caveat of max shield minus 36.5. Bunny doesn't rely heavily on shields. I would recommend building more into her defense and HP. And since the modules that we use, the external components, the Supernova set, give a lot of defense and shield as is, you can focus heavily on just building into HP for her, especially on a bossing build. Next here we have a skill concentration. This is crit damage plus 115, right? We're just trying to build into that with things like skill insight, right? 115 for that, but crit rate, and now 115 for crit damage. Next we have skill expansion. We run this just to have our biggest range boost because again, at a boss, it's not always easy to be at their feet, but plus 92.3% range really, really helps. And that's on top of the bonus we already get from High Voltage giving more range. The last one here is going to be focus on Singular. Singular skill power modifier plus 68.2, cooldown minus 6.1. The cooldown is just a nice bonus because it allows for more of an infinite uptime and an infinite rotation. And the skill power modifier is nice because Bunny's main attack here, Lightning Emission, is a singular type ability. So Anything that can boost that is going to be an awesome day. Now, let's move right along into the Dungeons build, right? Our updated 3.0. Alrighty, rounding out this build guide here with the Dungeons 3.0 build. So this one is going to be used, I would recommend, outside of the 400% dungeon. Again, you can use that 400% build really everywhere if you want, but you don't have to. This one is going to rely more on high voltage as opposed to electric condense, just because this is nice because you get more range and damage with your lightning strikes, okay? And we'll go over all of our mods here, and then we'll show the one mod that I talked about earlier during the reactor section, discussing you can focus more on health or damage, especially in the dungeons build. So we know what high voltage does, right? That's the direct lightning strikes. Next here for our grapple, again, midair maneuvering is my favorite. If you're only watching this part, the reason for that is Bunny, if you use this midair maneuvering, shoot it up in the air, and then do a corkscrew motion around, you are going to move as fast as possible with this character, and that is really useful because lightning emission is based on move distance, so it emits every 7 meters moved. The faster we move, the more often the lightning strike goes off, therefore the more damage we do. Midair maneuvering is my personal favorite. Next here we have our interchangeable mod. This unfortunately does not occupy the same crystal catalyst slot, so I would definitely say take a look and see which one feels better to you. But with HP amplification, Bunny has just over 9,000 health with my particular setup. But if you want to use a different mod, there is another one down here called Multi-Talented, right? Multi-Talented is a mod specifically for Bunny because it works for a few characters because it has dimension, fusion, tech, all that. We're looking at the very bottom section for singular. When using the singular active skill, that's going to be lightning emission for high voltage, all attribute damage, plus 30% for 5 seconds. This is really nice because basically it just means you get a 30% damage boost all the time on high voltage and lightning emission, right? But by applying that, you do lose out on the 227% health. So you are going to end up around probably 5,000 health if you copy this build otherwise. So I would definitely say that is for you to decide if you'd rather have a little more health or a little more damage, right? If you feel like the damage is already enough, I personally do. I'd rather have the health just to give me more of a cushion. Then I would definitely say use HP amplification. Next here we have, again, one of my favorite mods for really all Bunny builds, especially the mobbing ones. That is going to be maximize conservation. This is skill cost minus 35.4, skill power modifier minus 20. As we discussed in the 400% build, the skill power modifier minus 20 sounds bad, but honestly it doesn't end up affecting it, even when we add in the minus 20 on top of that for maximize range that we'll get to, right? The big part of this is that we still one-shot pretty much everything other than some yellow bars in a dungeon, but the skill cost minus 35% means that speed of light takes way less MP, therefore you can run a lot longer without having to recharge MP. So next here we have just a standard increase HP mod, max HP plus 218. Since we're using the Supernova set for these builds for the external components, focuses heavily on defense and shield, therefore I would say build into Bunny's HP, right? Again, I use 2 HP mods. You can really switch out HP amp for multi-talented. If you'd rather, you can switch out increased HP. I don't personally see a reason because it's 218 versus 227, but this one does not have the max shield down, right? So if you're going to switch out one for multi-talented, I would definitely say HP amp. Next here we have power increase. This is nice because, again, just a general skill power mod plus 65%. That's really nice because then just every skill has a bonus of skill power. Next here we have a new mod to the ring. Again, you're probably going to see some of these overlap. If you're watching from the 400% to here, it's just kind of based on when you need certain things, right? Like, as you'll see in this build, we do not use nimble fingers because we do not need it as long as you have a reactor with duration or a cooldown in the purple tier or higher. But electric amp, being a new mod since the October 10th update, is electric skill power plus 65.4, skill critical hit damage minus 140. Again, outside of bossing now, we have found that we can just have some of these new mods to raise our base skill power so high that we can one-shot every ad and no longer have to rely on crits, which is really nice because now we don't have to rely on crit rate or crit damage, freeing up some of these slots. Next here we have skill expansion. This is just a range boost, skill effect range plus 92.3. This is really nice because it stacks with high voltage, which already increases the range, allowing us to hit ads from even farther away. Coming up here to our ultimate mod, MP Collector. This is a staple for me, especially in the dungeons build. I discussed in the 400% dungeon build, I still run this mod. Is it absolutely needed? No. I think you could probably switch it out for something like multi-talented if you just want to do more damage. That is because in the 400%, there's so many ads, meaning so many MP bricks dropping that you can pretty much keep it up infinitely. In normal dungeons like the 250% or anywhere you're running around the world, I would definitely say it's nice to just have MP Collector, and that just keeps your MP recharged without having to dig for those blue bricks on the ground as much. But MP Collector specifically is just when defeating an enemy, instantly recovers 12.2% of max MP at a 17% chance. So, you know, it just builds into the whole idea of an infinite speed of light runtime. Next here we have focus on singular. So singular skill power modifier plus 68 and skill cooldown minus 6.1. This is really nice because as you can see, again, we're not relying on crit rate or crit damage anymore. We're just boosting our base skill power, which is really nice. And we get the added bonus of having skill cooldowns. Because there's already a couple of these cooldowns in some of these mods, we don't need to rely on nimble fingers because high voltage also helps with that, and lightning emission has less uptime required, right? You can get an easier rotation. Second to last here, we have maximize range. We are stacking that on top of skill expansion, so we get an additional 94.4% skill range on top of the 92.3 we already have. We do have the skill power modifier minus 20 for a total of minus 40, as you see on the left. But as you can see in all of our testing here and all the background footage, it doesn't matter, honestly. You still do so much damage, and it's at this point, it's nicer to have the ridiculous amount of range that high voltage can give you with all of these range boosts. And as long as we're one-shotting all the ads, that's the most important thing, right? I know numbers sometimes can make it look a little daunting, but as long as you see the result you're happy with, that's what's going to matter. And finishing off the dungeon build here, we have singular amplification. This is another new mod from the October update, stacking with electric amp. Same exact idea. We get another skill power boost. This one applies to singular instead of electric, but as you can see here, Bunny's third ability, lightning emission, and then with high voltage is her main ability, and that is a singular ability. So we use this to boost the damage. The critical hit rate does go down again, just like this one, crit hit damage, crit hit rate. But again, now that we just have to build straight into skill power and skill power modifiers, we no longer have to worry about crit damage, therefore crit rate, because we're not going for crits. And that's really, really nice because we can just end up doing more damage more consistently. So yeah. So finishing off this guide today, I just wanted to take you guys through a quick lab test scenario so we can see some of these damage numbers in real time, right? We're gonna go over the Dungeon 3.0 build first and then the 400% build first. You saw background gameplay as we were going over those builds, which is, you know, always nice. I have fun doing those. But here we're just looking more for the very specific numbers, and then we can show off the runtime of speed of light, right? So we'll start off by the run here. As you can see from the top bar, the MP drains very slowly thanks to the conservation mod that we use, and that is really, really nice. Now, since it's the dungeon build, we're going to turn on our third ability, which is lightning emission, therefore high voltage. You'll be able to see all of our damage popping out. We are seeing quite a few numbers through there, but I'm seeing things on the top end of around 258,000, and we'll have those damage numbers up on screen, right? So thank you to our lovely editor for always doing those. We should really give more of a shout out to him because he works really, really hard to make sure these guides get going. So as you can see here, what we want to be doing is basically anytime we have our grapple up, we want to go up and then in a corkscrew motion, because as you can see, even if speed of light is not active because we're out of MP, because we're not killing any ads, we still get a very fast amount of movement, therefore a lot of lightning coming out. And as you can see, we do have an infinite uptime on our lightning emission as well. So that's really, really nice. So we're going to swap over to the the 400% build. I'll see you guys back in a sec. Alrighty, so we are back here with our 400% build. As you can see, it's now electric condense is going to be on. So we're going to see this function a little bit differently, but our goal is to get some damage numbers, right? So first we're going to pop our speed of light, start running. We're going to pop our lightning emission here. You're going to see damage numbers again. I'm seeing quite a few different numbers pop here, but things as high as 183. And as you saw in those background gameplays, that really does take care of pretty much everything. And now we're going to pop our fourth ability here, electric condense. The more you run, the more this charges. And on the left, you see it's ready to pop. And then you're going to see a couple really massive damage explosion numbers, right? So we're going to charge that up again. I just want to get one more test for you guys and give the editor here another chance to get all the numbers up on screen, but here they come. So I saw ones going really, really high there. And that's going to be, really nice again, especially in the 400%, because your goal is you can really just run around, swing around, and then when you get to the boss, you can pop electric condense, charge that up, and then do a massive amount of damage to those yellow bars, and then just the final boss of the missions, right? So yeah, that is going to be about everything today. Hopefully everyone had fun. Hopefully we all got to learn a little something. Please consider liking, subscribing, and dropping a comment if you have any questions. We have a lot of fun making these builds. Again, shout outs to our lovely editor. And yeah, we will see you guys in some of our upcoming build guides. We got a few that are going to be really exciting, so I will catch you all next time. Peace.